Hello, my name is Daniel Keenan. This project is a joint production of the University of Maine School of Law's Refugee and Human Rights Clinic, the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project, and Justice for Our Neighbors in Portland, Maine. This multi-part video series aims to inform you about the procedure for applying for asylum in the United States without the assistance of a lawyer. Maine Law's Refugee and Human Rights Clinic and the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project have also prepared a detailed written guide in English, French, Spanish, and Arabic called How to Apply for Asylum in the United States. This guide is available online. I strongly suggest you read this guide carefully and watch these videos as you prepare your asylum application. The purpose of this video series is to teach you the basics about asylum in the United States, including the legal requirements about who is eligible to apply. The series will also include an overview of how to fill out the required asylum application, how to write a personal declaration, how to gather evidence to support your case, and how to prepare for your asylum interview with the U.S. government. It is important for me to note up front that these videos are not a replacement for legal advice from a lawyer who knows about asylum. Any individual question about your own case is best answered by a knowledgeable immigration lawyer. I strongly suggest you seek the assistance of a lawyer to help you in applying for asylum if you have not already done so. This series of videos on how to apply for asylum in the United States is organized in the following way. A video giving you an overview of the legal requirements for asylum in the U.S. and who is eligible to apply. A video explaining how to fill out Immigration Form I-589, which is the required application that every asylum applicant must complete and submit to the U.S. government. A video about how to write your personal declaration, which is a document where you explain your personal story and why you are applying for asylum in the United States. A video about collecting supporting evidence that supports your asylum application and makes it more likely that the U.S. government will believe your personal story is true. A video explaining how to properly file your completed application with the U.S. government. This video also describes what happens after you file your application, how to prepare for your asylum interview, and how and when you can apply for work authorization. In today's video, I will explain what it means to apply for asylum in the U.S. and who is eligible. It is a process in which you can ask to be allowed to stay in the U.S. and be protected from being returned to your country. This is a confidential process. The U.S. government is not allowed to share information with any outside groups that may seek to harm you. More specifically, asylum is a legal protection granted by the U.S. government to foreign nationals currently in the U.S. who cannot return to their home countries because they either have been or fear they will be harmed physically or psychologically based on certain reasons. The harm you experienced or harm you fear you will suffer must be caused by your government or some group or individual that your government is unable or unwilling to control. Harm can be physical or psychological. Physical harm is when someone injures your body. For example, this could include if you were beaten, kidnapped, tortured, detained, or sexually abused. Psychological harm is when something happens to you that did not hurt your body, but negatively affects your thoughts, emotions, or actions. For example, you might have experienced psychological harm if your life was threatened, or if you witnessed a family member or someone else close to you being hurt. An important requirement of asylum law is that the past harm or harm you fear in the future must be because of one or more of the following reasons. Race. Race is the color of your skin or your ethnic or tribal group. Your ethnic or tribal group can also be considered your nationality. It also includes circumstances where an individual or group thinks or believes that you belong to a certain tribe or group, even if you do not. Religious beliefs. You might have been harmed based on the religion you practice, your religious community, or your religious heritage. It does not matter which religion you identify with, only that you were harmed because of it. It also includes circumstances where an individual or group thinks or believes that you follow a certain religion, even if you do not. National origin. This is defined as your citizenship in a certain country or countries, or your membership in certain ethnic or linguistic groups. It also includes circumstances where an individual or group thinks or believes that you are a citizen of a certain country or countries, even if you are not. Political opinion. This is a belief or affiliation you have regarding a particular social group or movement. The U.S. government has a broad definition of what constitutes political opinion, and so it could include something not directly related to a political party, for example, your belief in human rights or your participation in peaceful demonstration. You may have suffered harm or fear harm because an individual or group who harmed you or wishes to harm you thinks or believes that you hold a certain political opinion, even if you do not. Membership in a particular social group. A particular social group is a group of people who share something in common that they cannot or should not have to change. Examples of a particular social group include social class, age, family ties, clan, gender, and sexual orientation. Particular social groups are not always easy to identify. For example, people with a shared past experience, such as survivors of a massacre or employees of an organization or entity, might qualify as a particular social group. As with the other reasons, it also includes circumstances where an individual or group thinks or believes that you are a member of a certain group, even if you are not. As I have mentioned, even if you are not harmed in the past, you are eligible for asylum if you have a well-founded fear of physical or psychological harm if you are returned to your country. The U.S. will consider whether this fear is reasonable by considering certain factors that may include if any of your family members have been harmed, if you have been threatened in the past, if there is a pattern or practice of harm against people in your home country who are in a similar situation to yours, whether you could move to a different part of the country and live safely. This fear of future harm, like the past harm, must be based on the same categories I mentioned earlier, including race, religious beliefs, national origin, political opinion, membership in a particular social group. Remember, whether the harm you suffered happened in the past or whether you fear future harm, you must show that it is caused by your government or some group or individual that your government is unable or unwilling to control. In other words, if you can go to your own government for help, and your own government will help you, the U.S. expects you to ask for their help rather than seek refuge in the U.S. As part of your asylum application, you will need to explain any efforts you made to go to your government for help and what happened, or if you did not go to your government for help, why not? If the government is the group seeking to harm you, then the U.S. government does not expect you to ask them for help. This simply needs to be explained in your asylum application. The video in this series on how to prepare your personal declaration will help you figure out the best way to explain your story. While the asylum process is a long process for many people, often taking months and even years, the most important benefit is that if you are granted asylum, you may remain indefinitely and legally in the U.S. Asylum also provides a way for asylees to bring certain immediate family members to the U.S., eventually obtain lawful permanent residence, a green card, and even U.S. citizenship. Based on what I have just explained, you should now have a better idea about whether you meet the legal and factual requirements to be eligible for asylum in the U.S. Please review the guide I referred to at the beginning of this video if there are still any areas that are still unclear to you. Also, please note that there are a few factors that could prevent you from getting asylum. Some of those disqualifying factors may include if you have been in the United States for more than 1 year. To calculate your 1-year deadline, subtract 1 day from the day you entered the U.S. and then add 1 year. For example, if you entered the U.S. on November 20th, 2014, your application must be received by the U.S. government by November 19th, 2015. In this example, if the U.S. government did not receive your application until November 20th, 2015, your application would not meet the 1-year filing deadline. Keep in mind that if you miss this 1-year deadline, it does not mean that you cannot apply. You can apply, but you will need to show extraordinary circumstances such as a severe illness or changed circumstances such as new conditions that arose in your home country that now cause you to fear returning to your home country, to explain why you did not apply within the 1 year of coming to the U.S. You may not be eligible if you were denied asylum by an immigration judge or the Board of Immigration Appeals. You may not be eligible if you have lived safely in another country besides your home country before coming to the U.S. and that country offered you permanent immigrant status there. Living in another country permanently means that you had the right to move freely in another country as well as work or pursue education there. Living permanently does not include living in a refugee camp or on a temporary visa status. You may not be eligible if you traveled through Canada and then entered the U.S. by land, but if you traveled through Canada by air, having a layover at a Canadian airport, or by sea, you may still be eligible for asylum in the U.S. You may not be eligible if you have committed or have been convicted of certain crimes. However, only certain crimes make you ineligible for asylum, so it is important to consult an experienced immigration lawyer before applying for asylum if you have committed or been convicted of a crime. You may not be eligible for asylum if you have harmed or ordered, assisted, or otherwise caused harm to others because of their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. Even if you caused others harm because you were ordered or forced to do so, you may not be eligible for asylum. You may not be eligible for asylum if you have participated in terrorist acts or you are dangerous to the United States. If any of these apply to you, I urge you to seek advice from an experienced immigration lawyer. If you are eligible for asylum, you will need to fill out an asylum claim, which includes, at a minimum, an application form called the Form I-589. Ideally, you will also want to send in a personal declaration and supporting evidence along with the application. These documents and steps will be explained in this video series. During this process, you will have to attend a fingerprinting appointment and your asylum interview. These steps are also covered in this video series. And as I mentioned earlier, everything that you send and say to the U.S. government is confidential. The application is processed by U.S. government agents who are not permitted to share its contents with individuals who seek to harm you or others. You may know friends, family, or acquaintances who have gone through the asylum application process here in the U.S. It is important to keep in mind that every asylum applicant and application is different, and there is a good amount of advice, misinformation, and even confusion out there. Above all else, you should never listen to advice that tells you to lie or make up facts about your case, or to forge documents. It is extremely important that you tell the truth on your application and in every document that you submit to the U.S. government in support of your claim about why you left your home country and why you cannot return there. Any forged document or lie, however small, can lead to a denial of your asylum claim. This concludes the introductory video on the basic legal requirements for asylum in the United States and who is eligible to apply. If you have any questions, please refer to the guide entitled How to Apply for Asylum in the United States.